Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again to another episode of Spliced in Later. It's been a minute. I do apologize. I know when I started this year, I was like, yeah, we got some good stuff coming. And then I did a couple of things and then I disappeared. The reason for that being I just ran out of time. And it's all to do with movies and things that are relevant to this podcast or show or whatever. So I guess good news, bad news. The long story short is that I had planned to record my usual episode last Tuesday when I got invited to a movie. A movie that I kind of wanted to see, but it wasn't high on my priorities, mainly because it came out last year. I'd already done my top 10 movies of the year. I'd already done my wind off of 2023. So it was one of those movies which was like, I'll catch it one day, I think. I know it's very good. I'm hearing very good things, but whatever. But, it's Cheap Tuesday here in Australia. You can get cheap movie tickets on Tuesday. So I thought, okay, why not? Every single Australian in the Australian Open is out. There's no reason to be watching that anymore. Let's go check it out. Fucking fantastic movie all for horrible, upsetting reasons, but also just a great time all around. So much so that I'm like, all right, for my next episode, I'll review this. I'll talk about it. I saw it. It's worth adding to the thing. Even though it's already come and gone and people don't really know or care, it's worth acknowledging that I enjoyed this film. But the movie was so devastating, such an emotional gut punch to me and my spirit, that it's actually taken me a week to find the strength to talk about it. So it's worked out really well in that for my usual episode this week, I can just do what I was going to do last week. And to make up for it, there will be another episode later in the week for another movie review of something coming out this week. So be excited for that. But yeah, it's sort of been like, okay, I do want to talk about it, but I don't know. I don't have that much to say. I think this will be a shorter episode. I think for the most part, people know about this film. They know that it's pretty fantastic. But if you're curious for like, oh, what's the guy who always reviews superhero movies and remakes and reboots and sequels and animated SpongeBob films, think of this film. Well, now you know. So today's review is about The Iron Claw. It is a movie from A24 starring Zac Efron, amongst others. There's also Lily James, Holt McCallany, Harris Dickinson, the Jeremy Allen White. There's quite a lot in here. And it is about the true story of the Von Erich family, a family of wrestlers, essentially big in the 80s or the 70s. I think it was the 80s from the movie, if I can remember correctly, who suffered some really bad stuff for a big portion of their lives. And it sort of delves into that mainly through the eyes of Kevin Von Erich, played by Zac Efron. So first off, it's really well done, but you should know that because it's by A24. A24 is a fantastic movie company that just tick all the right boxes on just producing quality content and also just being a not evil company in Hollywood. When the strike was going on and Disney and Warner Brothers and all of them were going, this is our best final offer. You writers are asking for too much from us. Why can't we have AI just do some of your job? A24 was immediately like, those are your terms? They're reasonable. We accept. We can now continue on and keep promoting our films and filming them and releasing them at our usual schedule because we understand that's what you want and we gave it to you and life is good. A24 are also responsible for some fantastic films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Lighthouse, quite a few things. They're a bit more abstract with what they do. The most mainstream thing that I think I've even heard them consider doing is that they might do a prequel series to Friday the 13th, which is interesting. I might even watch that because it's A24. But for the most part, they take on things that make you think, more emotional, nuanced stuff, which isn't for everybody. So I guess, if you had seen trailers for The Iron Claw and you weren't familiar with what the subject matter was, who the Von Erichs were, like I wasn't, you could have been fooled by that trailer to just be like, oh, it's just a silly little wrestling film about wrestlers in the 80s. They look a bit funny. I might go check that out. Might be triumphant, might be silly, who knows. That's not it at all. So without talking too much about the plot, I mean, the plot is real life, but I had no idea about this family because I know nothing about wrestling. Watching this film, I don't understand wrestling. Is it real? Is it fake? Do you get hurt or is it all for show? Is it planned out in advance or do you make it up on the fly? Who decides who wins? Who decides who doesn't win? I thought I understood with that Fighting with My Family movie, but I don't really. This didn't enlighten me at all. It seems fun. I can understand why a lot of wrestlers become actors if it is all about putting on a show, but I don't really get it. So I have never followed wrestling all that much. So the news that the Von Erichs were this family of brothers and a father who have wrestling is their legacy, who had some hardships, is news to me. So I got to experience it without knowing what would happen. Then I could go home later afterwards and be like, holy shit, it's even worse than how the movie depicted it. But if you don't know and you do want to be like, oh, okay, you do need just a little bit of a heads up there that it's not a triumphant sports film of any kind. It is very much 90% devastating sadness, upsetting blow after upsetting blow to a point where you just feel awful for these brothers in this film. So you just be prepared for that. But basically, it dictates, for the most part, the main lives of 4 brothers from the Von Erichs. There's Kevin and the others. I don't really remember all the other names. I did remember them a week ago. I don't so much now. I knew there was Kerry, who was played by the guy who's from the Bear TV show. And that's it, I think. I think there might have been a Mike or a Matt. Sorry, guys. I apologize. Fritz was the father. But so their father's this very intense wrestling aficionado. I don't think he hit wrestling huge when he was doing it, but it's become a family legacy. Also, I apologize if the movie doesn't accurately depict some of these people as they were in real life. I know there's been some pushback that the father is portrayed a lot more negatively than he was in real life, and that comes with a lot of biopics. You look at Elvis or Rocket Man or anything like that. Whoops, nearly knocked over my recorder there. And there is always the, it wasn't like that. That's being played up for dramatic effect. And yeah, because it's a movie. You have to try and entertain people. If you don't, then it's a documentary. And documentaries are certainly not for everybody. But yeah, so he's pushed his sons mainly to be wrestlers. Wrestling is everything. Some of them want to be wrestlers. Some of them want to do more with their lives. Some of them want to do something completely different. But for the most part, we are wrestlers. This is our life. Back in the early days, the father had changed their last name to Von Erich, and supposedly by doing that brought upon a curse to the family, the Von Erich curse, which is that the family would just suffer tragedy and turmoil constantly. And Kevin, played by Zac Efron, sort of believes it because he had a younger brother who had died when they were very small. But so far, not too much terrible stuff has happened since then. However, when the movie kicks off, Kevin's dating Lily James. He's trying to hit the big time and take on the heavyweight champion of the world. There's some dissent between the brothers because one starts to be a little better than the other, so the father starts pushing them out. Then there's another brother who just wants to be a musician, and then another brother who's all set to go to the Olympics, and then America doesn't go to the Olympics. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I wrestle. And then pretty much from that point on, it's just a downward spiral of just one upsetting event after another, one disaster, once more where the curse strikes again. And each one of these brothers suffers to a point of absolute limit to how much you can take. And how they cope with that, whether they can rise above it or let it defeat them, is the whole point of the movie. But basically, it's all on Zac Efron. He absolutely shines in this film as Kevin for the worst thing, because the emotion this guy does is he just sees everybody collapsing around him, and this feeling of hopelessness, and then a fear that he's going to pass on the curse to his own family that he's trying to build. Truly upsetting stuff. It's really fantastic. But everybody else in here is really great too, for very specific things that happen to them or they get to do in the movie. To single any one person out is probably unjustified, because what makes this such a upsetting emotional gut punch is the connection between the brothers and how they're just really lovely people. There's not a sense that one's a bit arrogant and one's got his head in the clouds and the other is shirking brotherly responsibilities or anything like that. These 4 brothers that this movie follows, they are lockstep, rock solid, have each other's back, would do anything for each other, never get spiteful, never try to undermine each other, and then just shit happens to them, horrible things, and they try to push through and they try to keep going on, but it just keeps pushing down. And on top of that, they have an emotionally distant father and mother as well. Early on, it's made very clear that if they have any issues, then they can't go to the parents about it because they just don't want to hear it. They have to sort it out themselves, whatever it is. And the father openly says, like, I have a favorite son. Whoever is doing the most at the moment that I feel is making me proud, they're the favorite. And then I go down the list. So you are currently my least favorite because you're not doing enough for me. Like, that sort of household that you would live up in, you would think that would make you resent your brothers and all of that. But no, rock solid, steady people who just get shit on constantly. Honestly, I can't really say too much because it's a movie that you need to sort of... It's kind of like Saltburn. Saltburn that came out recently. It's huge now at the moment because it's all over TikTok and all the memes and people are sharing it everywhere. Which is a bit of a shame because if you went to Saltburn without any idea what the movie was about or what was going to happen, you will get to experience it the way I did, which was just terror, aghast, uncomfortable laughing sort of thing because you're just like, what's happening here? And it's the same for this. It's going on this journey with these brothers, seeing them get knocked down one at a time, this curse coming at them, through a variety of different ways, and mainly through Zac Efron just being like, man, please no more, I can't take it. Please someone give this guy a break. It's one of those experiences where if you have any sort of empathy towards anything in the world, you will feel something watching this movie. There's moments of levity, mainly when the brothers are hanging out together, like at a college party, or when they're making an advertisement to call out another wrestler and they can't get the lines right sort of thing. So there's bits of that here and there, but for the most part it is just one gut punch after the other. And if you feel for these characters, if you connect with them, which this movie honestly makes it impossible for you not to, by the end of it you're just going to be like, man, I want to know more. I want to know, did someone at least catch a break before the end of this? And no, looking into it, there's so much stuff they cut out of the movie just because it was already depressing enough without adding some more. There's even a whole other fifth brother, which they just didn't include because it's just too much. It's an incredible film. If I had caught it last year before I'd done my top 10 films of 2023, easily would have been in the top 5. Maybe even could have been in the top 2. I'm not sure. Obviously, it's very reactionary, me at the moment, but it's a fantastic film, solidly made. One of those films where, in this day and age, where I don't know if movies are going to come out on DVD anymore, I actively look to see, like, will this get a DVD release? And for the most part, I think it will. So that's nice. Look, it's a 9 out of 10 for me. It's a fantastic film. It's been out for a while, for most places, I believe. It was all over the place in America towards the end of last year. Most of the people I saw on YouTube when they were making their top 10s, there's one guy that ranked every single movie he'd seen that year, and it's like 96 movies. I don't have time to watch a 5-hour video where you just talk about every movie you've ever seen. I don't. I'd rather listen to 500 separate videos instead of one big one. No. But, all of these different things, Iron Claw was always right there at the top. If not number one, then one of the almost top ones. Here in Australia, it's been out for a couple weeks, but I know a lot of people probably don't know it's out or aren't really aware of it. So this is mainly for the people who listen to this who are like, oh, I've heard something about it. If you're thinking of going to check it out, absolutely do. Just prepare yourself. It's a fantastic movie for the emotions it makes you feel. It's not fantastic in that you'll have a good time watching it, but you'll definitely feel something watching it. And those are the movies that are good. The ones that stick with you, not just because you had a good time, but because you had some sort of experience watching it. Whether it's, oh my God, what the fuck is this? Like Saltburn. Or please, no more, I can't take it, I'm so sad. Like the Iron Claw. Iron Claw, fantastic film. Check it out. That'll be it for today. As I said, quick review, because I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to spoil the film. It makes me sad talking about the film. But it's worth raising awareness for it, and I saw it, so why not talk about it? In a couple of days, I'll be back. I'll be catching Argyle, the new film from Matthew Vaughn with the whole author who is somehow connected to a spy or something. You know, it's one of those things where it looks really cool, and I like Matthew Vaughn, but what the actual movie might end up being, I might not like. So who knows? But in a couple of days, you will know when I tell you that. So yeah, a couple of days we'll do that, and then we'll get back on a regular pattern. We'll do like a week where I just talk about whatever I feel like it, and then the next week will be a review of some sorts. I know later in this February there's like Madam Web, which I'll go see, I guess. But definitely like Dune Part 2, and then there's some good stuff coming later in the year. So some good content coming for Spliced in later, and hopefully at a more consistent rate than the last couple of weeks. But sorry, not sorry. So until later in the week, or until whenever you decide to listen, I love and appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Always, it means the world to me. And I'll see you next time. Adios, muchachos.